after a disappointing, embarrassing loss on their home court against the Cavs. Knicks go into Philly against an undermanned Sixer team. No Embiid, no Tobias Harris, no Thibault. So you figure no problem, but these are the New York Knicks after all. So of course it wouldn't be easy. Knicks take a 14-point lead going into the second half. Sixers are able to cut it to as low as 1 point between the third and fourth quarter, going back and forth, giving the Knicks everything they could. But in the end, it was Julius coming up clutch. 4 minutes left in the fourth. Julius Randle gets 10 points of his 31, leading the Knicks to a 103-96 victory.
We have to start there with Julius Randle having 20 points in the second half with 7 rebounds, shooting 50% from three. And, tonight is a night that we understand the roster that the opponent has, but this is a night that your best player decides to say, we're not going to lose this game. And that's basically what happened in the second half with his performance. The start was a little shaky. I thought an early turning point to the game was, off the timeout. There was a timeout. They came back. They played defense. They closed the first quarter very strong. That led to them having a lead. And then, this was just a strange game. We got the win, and we're out of there. We're out of there. Hey, we'll see Philly later this season. It is what it is. They don't have this guy. It doesn't matter. I've always said road wins are quality wins in the end. And there's a natural thing that it's hard to explain. And those fans that were not impressed tonight, I know it's hard to sell you on it. But the fact of the matter is when, you're professional players and you're playing a team that doesn't have anybody, it's hard to, be, 100% precise and play the way that we all want them to play. They had a 19-point lead. We would have loved to keep it that way. It didn't happen, but in the end, we won. And let's move on to the next.
7 lead changes in this game. 3 times the game was tied. This was all grit. And I know people are going to try to discredit this win, saying, Embiid's out. This person was out. But look, we've seen the Knicks fall short against teams that they should win. At the end of the day, when you're on the road, it's already hard enough to win, but it should even be easier to win, or you should take advantage of winning when you're playing against a team that is at a deficit. This is when you strike them, when things are working in your favor. So I don't want to hear all that, they had this or they were missing that, because a win is a win. And, we've seen the Knicks lose games that they should win. But I think, your defense keeps you in the game when your offense isn't clicking. And this was a scenario where the Knicks did not stop chipping away at the score. They did not give up. They did not just stop fighting and giving that grit that we wanted to see from this team. And that's really all you can ask for. It definitely was a weird game, to say the least. But like I said, a win is a win.
I actually said it best. A win is a win is a win is a win. I don't care if everybody was missing. I don't care if Doc Rivers was missing. I don't care who was missing. After what we had to sit through yesterday, I'm just glad we got a W. And against the 76ers, 2 games in a row this season. I don't care what the scenario is. We was on a crazy losing streak against this team. I don't care who they have, who they didn't have. We beat them for the second time this season alone after going on the craziest drought of all time against the team. So happy to have this win. We need it. A lot of growing pains, but I feel like to have this team, regardless of who was there and who was not, still keep them under 100. Julius Randle said it best. That's definitely something that we want to see from this team. Perimeter defense was rough yesterday. I wasn't on that show, and I know you guys were said it. We're talking about it, but I feel like for this team to shoot 43s, the Sixers to shoot 43s and only make 13 of them, that's a plus for us. So, I'm very happy to see us win. Need this one because it's a tough week, because we know who's coming up next, and then we know who we ending off the week with. So
I thought the defensive intensity, I thought the effort was on point, especially in the first half. I thought the rotations were sharp. They were running guys off the three-point line. You saw a night and day difference in their effort defensively to try to get these guys off the three-point line. They ran my guy Seth Curry off the three-point line. That was my prize picks
Me too, bro.
for tonight, fellas. But we'll get to that later. So definitely cost me some money, but in a good way. But I thought the effort and the overall aggressiveness on both ends was sharp. tonight. They didn't necessarily downplay to the competition, especially in the first half. I thought Fournier in particular was very noticeable on both ends of the floor, very aggressive on both ends of the floor. Julius as well. So, give credit. The defense was on point, in particular in the first half. Bad news is our big man depth is once again impacted. No Mitch tonight with a hip flexor. Noel starts the game with a bad back. I wasn't too, I'm not a doctor, but I wasn't too high on that because I just felt like there was no way for him to heal that, and it didn't sound good coming in. He ends up leaving with a bad knee injury, it looked like. So, our big man depth is once again in question, along with Julius coming in clutch. 4 minutes, 45 seconds left. Knicks are up by 3. Julius comes in, drops 10 of his 31. Kemba came up with some clutch plays. There were a lot of clutch plays by my guy, Alec Burks. Burks Hive, if you're in the chat, stand up. Again, the points ain't there yet. We're still getting into our groove, but he had a lot of hustle plays on the defensive end. Got us some extra possessions. There was a nice sequence. Yeah, there was some nice sequence where RJ found him in the corner for a 3. Then RJ came back the next possession, splashed a 3 for himself. So that was a good hustle by Burks. I thought IQ had some clutch moments. In particular, in the end, he hit one from the top of the key, but he's also starting to find his groove from the elbow 3 as well. So great job by the second unit as well.
The fact that we survived, still coming off of a back-to-back, we got to keep that in account. I know people are going to be upset that we didn't win the way you want to. You got to keep that in account. A lot of these guys played big minutes in that unfortunate loss in the Garden. We survived it, but like to that point, I was expecting it was going to be a brawl. I don't care who was playing, who wasn't. We got to get ourselves figured out, and I think we took a good step tonight.
I'm kind of disappointed. Even though we got the win, I look at what Julius is doing out there, and I can't see how there's any growth from our loss to Atlanta. I feel like Tibbs, he's a classic guy that can just ruin a wet dream, because every time I see them making a run, I feel like he needs to impose what he thought his plan was for the day rather than just rolling with, what is there in front of us for us to get the win. So we got the win today, but we were supposed to win today. But I'd like to get you guys' opinion about how we are doing relative to our growth offensively and Julius' growth as a leader and a dominant player on this team.
But for tonight, okay, he had some tough spots against Danny Green. You wanted to see him, punish him a little bit in the post, and that's a bit concerning in terms of not being able to take off on undersized guards. You saw the same issue with him and Lonzo, but listen, he went 12 of 25 from the field, 5 of 10 from 3, and he sealed the game for us.
Right, there was some bonehead moments for sure, but how did he finish? He definitely cleaned it up as the game went on. When he checked back in that fourth quarter, you saw him looking to push the issue by moving the ball a lot more rather than forcing up some of those shots that we've talked about on this show many a times. And he made key buckets to close out the game. So to me, it's about how he finishes the game. And that was a rough point in a few of the earlier games in the season, and I think he did a great job with that tonight. So you can't point the finger on Julius not for tonight's game for sure.
I will say for me, and this may be the unpopular opinion, but for me, I actually feel like I can't make that assessment on Julius Randle's growth as much in the regular season as I will be able to in the postseason. I think that is really where you see the strength of a player in terms of being the leader of a franchise. I think obviously you can go ahead and see him in spurts throughout the regular season, but the post is really where you can see how much Julius Randle has grown as a player. How do you deal with that pressure? How do you deal with the eyes, and how do you deal with, the big prize at stake? And I think that if we can go ahead and see a drastically different Julius Randle than we did in the last postseason against the Hawks, I think that's going to say mountains worth regarding Julius Randle's development. I think that's going to be the true telltale sign of how much he has grown as a leader and as a player.
I mean, this is like being a dead horse, but obviously Obi Toppin should be getting more minutes. He's very, very efficient coming off the bench, but that's neither here nor there. But, this is a good win. At the same time, this should have been a win that was won in the second quarter, because at one point we were up by, I think, like 19 or 18
19,
points. Yeah, 19. And I think that, like, this is what separates the good teams from the great teams, right? The great teams, they know how to put a game away. This is a game that we could have easily blown them out by like 30, right? But for some reason, I just don't know what it is. I don't know, like, where to put my finger on it, but I don't know, like, how teams close out these games. Maybe we need another piece, or maybe, like I just don't know. Maybe the guys lose enthusiasm. I don't know what's going on.
These teams that are depleted play really, they play hard, you know what I mean? And sometimes playing harder wins you those type of games. And to Ashley's point, if you're not a team that's going to go out there and seal the deal and kill them the way that we should have today, being up by 19 points, that's going to be a part of the growth, which, to what CP is saying, you know, we're only, 11 games into the season. And I feel like he said, there's a lot more that we're still have yet to see, like the combination of Julius Randle with Fournier, with with Kemba. Like I want to see that grow into something more. You know, there's just still so much time left in this season to overreact about things like tonight. And so the fact that we won this game, take the W and we move on and we see how this team progresses. So yeah, I think those are all great points, but I'm not tripping about it, not yet.
These guys are still working together. What I want to see Tibbs do is still continue to work on that rotation, because to me his rotations are terrible. Not giving Obi enough time. Every time Obi comes in, that energy does something, and that second unit plays amazing defense. As soon as we start making a run, he takes Obi out. He puts one of the veterans back in. You know, back in the day, if that second unit was balling, that second unit stayed in until they messed up. I'd like to see that. Let's stop with the Jekyll and Hyde fandom, please. If you're a Knicks fan, yeah, it wasn't great tonight, but you happy you got the win, and you just want to see people grow. Let me tell you something. Everybody keeps complaining about Randle. First of all, Randle had 3 drives to the basket, which was amazing to me because I only usually see him do 1 a night, and he got 2 offensive rebounds. That's what I want to see Julius do more of, because what I'm seeing is when he has a mismatch, he's not taking advantage the way he should.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I want to see. I want to see some growth from Julius in going to the basket, play the two-man game. I like the fact that he hasn't been ball hogging as much this year, and I see that he's learning how to play with these 2 new players. Let me see some more two-man game with these guys, because I think we could dominate with that two-man game with Kemba and Fournier. And then let him get some calls.
The Knicks have something to play for on Wednesday. This whole Garden thing, they got to get that straight. So I'm looking for RJ to have a good game, and I'm looking for Randle to build on the performance tonight. So see what happens.
I'll take the dub, and I think it's gonna be second unit again, man. I think it's IQ, Rose, and the Burks Hive stepping up. 30 combined points, maybe even more, maybe 40. It's gonna be in the strength of the second unit. You're gonna have, that 3-point defense is gonna have to show up, because I'm telling you, the Bucks are gonna let it fly. And the Freak is gonna be out for revenge.